Control Authority meeting. Tonight is, February 15th, middle of February, 7 o'clock. We have posted an agenda. Any proposed changes? Seeing none, we'll proceed with our first order of business is to consider the January 18th, 2023 regular meeting minutes put together by Sheila and Joe.
Motion to accept.
Thank you. Second from Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
I missed one. Was I at that one? Or?
You were at that one.
I was, okay.
Right. Via WebEx,
Yeah.
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right,
Right, 8 o'clock.
yeah, that's why, yeah, I missed the first.
Ron Drew, you on board?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Thank you. No sunglasses tonight.
I'll call you tomorrow. I got a couple of things to
Okay.
tell you. This one's okay.
Okay, great.
It's not so much.
Okay. Thanks for being with us. January 27th meeting minutes. Motion to approve from Tom. Second by Matt. All in favor who were there? Ron, Mark, Joe, Matt, Tom. Okay, great. Okay, under new business, we have to review and act upon the release of the bond for 1143 Sasko Hill Road. This was the project at the, we just passed Fairfield Country Club. Do we have anyone from, Chris Russo was putting forward this?
Yeah,
And
Chris,
Clancy, what do we have
he's
on?
not, Chris wasn't available to be with us tonight. I sent the, commission the bond format and a letter from Chris Russo, for the release of the bond on, 1143 Sasko Hill Road. Went out and inspected it. No concerns, no issues whatsoever, so.
Comments, questions?
They provided with the as-bills.
Yes.
I just had one question. I'm not sure if we know the answer, but was this?
Okay.
What's that?
You didn't put the motion on the table. You read it, but you didn't.
Yeah, that's right.
I just wanted to make sure. We'll have to just make a motion.
Let's make a motion.
Okay.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Second from
Okay.
Joe?
Good.
Okay,
You're good.
we've caught up. Do we know if this pipe is to be deeded to us, turned over to us?
To be deeded to us? I'm not sure of that.
When we passed the motion, we requested that the pipe be turned over to the town once it was completed.
Yeah.
We'd have to do an MOU like we did with the country club
Yeah.
to get that accomplished. But yes, we did. Part of it that's out in the street.
Yeah.
And we have a policy, obviously, Mr. Chair, that says any pipes in the street are the town responsibility, even though they've been put in the street by a private developer.
Yeah. So we have the pipe from Fairfield Country Club turned over to us?
That's ours, yes.
Okay.
That belongs to the town now.
Okay. Okay, well, I think that's separate and distinct from the release of the bond. It was just for my own edification. Sorry to take us off on that tangent. I'm sure they're happy to deed us over that pipe.
I
Yeah.
don't quite agree if it's separate and distinct. Isn't the bond usually turned over when it's deeded to the town?
I don't know I don't know that to be the case.
I don't
Yeah, I was just
think,
questioning.
Is there any benefit to them keeping it? I would say
No, I would say no. But the only thing is, if it's not gonna get done.
I don't think the bond is reading you've got it in front of you.
Yeah.
I don't think it addressed
Well,
the ownership of the pipe in the street.
but I'm assuming since they did a Mylar drawing, it would have been filed with the town as the Mylar.
Yeah, usually we get a separate
Yeah.
MOU with the developer. I don't know whether we have or not.
Well, we do, I think we do, yes. I'll have to. Yeah.
Oh,
It's Chris Russo.
Oh, here's Chris as we speak.
Hey, Chris, can you hear us?
He just showed up.
Yes, Chair, sorry, I'm trying to unmute.
Oh, great.
Hi, Chris.
Chris, we were just talking about your project, great timing.
Great,
So it sounds like, John Clancy's inspected the pipe, he's comfortable with the construction of it. The question that I brought up, relates to the deeding of that pipe to the town, which is something I would imagine you'd like to do, would want to do, and not be responsible for it, and how we go about effectuating that.
Yeah, I would have to talk, so that's an interesting question. The road within the subdivision is private.
Yeah.
So I believe we would retain ownership over that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we don't want the street, not the private stuff.
Chris, we have a nice still shot of your face. We're gonna get it all, it's all gonna catch up.
Unfortunate.
Yeah,
Someday we'll look back on this and it will all seem funny. Early Zoom days. Although this is probably not even Zoom. This is, WebEx.
we know he wants to say something.
I feel like it's starts CPR here. Clear.
Hey, Chris, if you can hear us, turn off your video so we can, maybe the audio works better. Been one of those days.
Ask him if he could dial back in.
I don't know if I have his phone.
He's gotta realize he's not getting a response.
Can we use the chat function there?
That's a good idea. Hey, Ron Drew,
Yes.
could you, put a chat up saying to, Chris Russo that we can't hear him?
He's dialing in. He's coming back in.
There we go.
Second time.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Hey, no worries. Yep, loud and clear.
So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not sure how much you heard, but I think what we would do is deed over the portion of the pipe that is in the public right of way,
Gotcha. Okay.
which we're happy to do.
Okay. We're gonna leave that ball in your court. I don't think you wanna be responsible for it, so I think that's enough of an incentive.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, any other comments, questions on the release of the bond? Okay, we have the motion out, those in favor?
All right.
Looks to be unanimous. That'll be probably the quickest, interaction you have all week.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Very welcome, thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay. How am I doing? I didn't skip over anything, did I?
No, not yet. It's still early though.
Okay, old business. This was continued from January 18th, and that's to hear and act upon the proposal for 277, 291, and 301 Berkeley Road. Is there a motion? Let me make sure I cover that. Motion from Matt, second. Second. From Chris. Okay. So this came to us kind of last minute, last month. The department had not had a chance to take a look at it. We understand that, the department, subsequently did have a chance to take a look at it. There were some modifications to the calculations. And, where do we stand now?
Sure, yeah, I'll go through it, just kind of briefly, you guys saw it last
Identify
time.
yourself, Steve, I'm sorry.
My name is Steve Santa Cruz, Rose Gizzo and Company, PE in the state of Connecticut. So, yes, as you saw this last month rather, and there are some slight changes to the report. I'll just go over those, quickly. There's a corresponding email, with John Bodick, confirmation, he had no further comments after we, revised the report. So we analyzed the flows, for the existing, sewer out in Berkeley Road, and we did that with, flow monitoring, which was provided by LCP General Contractors. The existing, site, consists of multifamily homes. And the proposal is for the unit apartment building. With a sewer connection out to Berkeley Road. The report was revised, to the current Town of Fairfield inflow and infiltration abatement policy. And based on the report, I'm just gonna summarize the findings that there's a maximum flow, within the flow monitoring time of, 325 gallons per minute. That was at Site 1, which was located at 57 First Street, which is significantly downhill from our property, almost, several blocks away. That pipe has a capacity of over, it's 1.7 million, gallons per day. And we're at less than half of that with our, proposal included. The existing flow at that site,
Sounds like about a third.
yeah, well, yeah, less than that. The existing, flow maximum was 468,000 gallons per day. We're increasing that to 488 with the proposal, which is a 4.2% increase. At Site 2, there is a maximum of 130 gallons per minute. Site 2 is located at 254 Greenfield Street. So it's an 8-inch pipe and then a 10-inch on the other side of the manhole, so 8 into a 10. We analyzed this point as well. The capacity of that pipe is 581,685 gallons per day. With the proposed flow, including the units, we're at 207. So again, we're good within the full flow capacity of the pipe, and that's kind of just a summary of what we have. So, any questions?
This one,
Mr. Vice Chairman.
we about 4-6 months ago approved another project in this area. Maybe I should address it to John. Do you remember that project?
Was that Third Street, did you say? It was
I wanted to say Greenfield Street, but
Greenfield?
my mind is not remembering. I mean, it was on a quarter of an acre. It was just such a huge thing. They haven't done anything. Does that impact any of these lines?
I don't think it would. Berkeley,
This is in a different area, I think, right?
that's, yeah. Berkeley, it's almost a side street.
Yeah, Berkeley's behind where Scap Motors is, right?
Yeah, behind it, actually.
Yeah, okay.
So Berkeley's
Behind-
almost a side street. There was
That other
two,
one- Do you remember that other one?
Yeah,
Quarter acre.
yeah, it was right by the,
Yeah, it was a
Stop and
quarter
Shop.
acre, but we were shocked, I was shocked at how many units they were gonna try to put on there.
Yeah, right.
That's not near here, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's good enough. I just wanted to make sure.
the flow monitoring, was done and everything.
Yeah, on this one,
Yeah, there
but
was
that
two,
one.
there was 2 houses there,
Three.
3 houses
Right.
there, and now you're putting up more units.
No, but my point was, we approved a different project.
Yeah.
That was uphill from this one.
Right,
we have to
yeah.
incorporate that one in these calculations, that they're hypothetical calculations into these.
Yeah.
But it's away from this. I
Yeah.
take my question back.
Okay.
I thought it was a good question.
Okay,
I want to take it back.
okay, I'm leaving my question on the table,
Yeah.
but it's been answered, asked and answered.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Ron, aye, you? You're,
I'm sorry.
okay, so unanimous. Steve, nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming back again this month. Okay.
You gotta go to planning and zoning now with this?
Is that an 832 project?
It,
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Doesn't matter.
No, I was just wondering just what it was.
Is it giving you that?
Coming that much expensive?
Digester update. We have one. John, do you have a digester update?
I do, I think Christine was gonna join us, but I have the honors to,
Well, thank you.
I'd be happy to
We
just
appreciate
relay the information that she gave me, so, this is coming from Christine, so just to pass along to you guys. So the digester repairs, Tucker Mechanical is mobilizing equipment and materials on site and is scheduled to begin work on Monday, February 13th, so I guess that was Monday. Current baseline schedule estimates the completion date of that of May 2023, so a few months away.
Great.
And,
Is Christine the responsible party on that? Running point on that?
yeah, for now,
Okay.
due to, yeah, for now, so, and,
She's very capable, so.
Yeah, and
Good.
I can just give you a little more update
Well,
if you want.
Of course.
So the first thing they have to resolve, on the 13th, they were putting up their construction tent, construction building. The first thing they're gonna do is they're going to crib and do the cement work up top. They're also gonna go inside as a second step while they're doing that, hopefully not from a safety point of view. And they are going to evaluate whether it needs to be fully lined or whether, they could just rip out the existing lining. There was some concern or some question. The original spec on that said it did not have to be, that it did not have to be lined when the original, manufacture was done on that digester. But now, it was lined, and the lining got destroyed, probably 3/4 of the lining got destroyed in this situation. So now they're looking at whether to rip out the existing quarter lining and it'll be okay, or to reline the whole thing. And they do have two different numbers on it.
Okay, good.
The 1181, and then the contingency that you pointed out, Chris, which brought it up to 1430. So they still haven't decided which is correct.
Was that lined with sand? Is that where that sand came from?
It wasn't the sand, there was sand inside from what John Bodie had told
Yeah.
us. And but there's none, once it was cleaned out, there was no sand,
Yeah.
but he thought it was on the sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the top blew, some of the sand got in there. But that got cleaned out according to, what I heard.
It could have also just been settling sand from the actual, I mean, we have infiltration and inflow in the system.
Yeah.
Sand would get in there.
So I still have a question to ask of Christine or someone, and that is, when we do the new plant design, that digester, based on that 2014 plan, was supposed to stay in place.
Mm-hmm.
So the question becomes, well, when we repair it, we need to keep that in mind. If that's gonna stay in place, should we have that full liner in there, and will that give us more, a longer age?
Yeah.
If that digester is gonna be part of the new plant design. And I haven't heard the answer to that one yet.
Matt, any thoughts on that?
I mean, the whole, we need to do a facility master plan to figure out what should and shouldn't be part of the future plan. But I mean, that is a very good consideration. I mean, whether or not that tank is intended to be part of the future plans.
Yeah, or if
Has
any
a
other
huge impact.
technology should go into that plant before it gets filled up.
Right. Now, depending on what they, I mean, the tank could theoretically be repurposed for something else in a solids handling capacity, even if it's not used as a primary digester. I mean, so I think it probably, as long as it's structurally sound enough, it could probably be reused and be part of the future project. But I think it's a little to be determined on what they see when they go in there.
What's the criteria for determining if a liner's required or not? Or is there no?
It's generally never required. I mean, in terms of for structural reasons, it's a life preserver. So, I mean, if you line concrete, then less things can get to
All
the
right.
actual concrete, so it's a protective barrier. So it generally does add life to
Okay.
something. But balancing that against,
Cost.
I guess it's what, 300,000 or thereabouts? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
a ton of money if it, but I would defer to a structural expert on how much we're actually, if we paid 300,000 to line it, what are we getting out of that? So,
But we're gonna maintain the digester to get the,
like cleaning out everything.
to get the life of the liner. So it's not worth putting a liner in to make it last longer for
Agreed.
doing the yearly maintenance justice.
And then the last piece of the puzzle, which I almost forgot, is the valve, which was the long, remember there was gonna be a 2-year wait on the valve. They seem to have been able to finagle it with the manufacturer to swap it with somebody else that had ordered the valve. So we're gonna get our valve on time to get the whole project done within 90 to 120 days. And our order of the valve will go to that other municipality. So they just swapped the work order at the manufacturer, which was good news for us.
Sure.
Chris, are you saying normality in supply chain now compared to maybe a year ago?
And it honestly
Depends on
depends on what it is.
Gotcha.
I've seen it's like, some things are quick now, some things are 8 months out. It changes, and to be honest, that's what we've seen, it's like it changes once a month. And then sometimes like, oh yeah, we could get it now. And you're like, okay. It's, you can't, you don't know what to expect.
It's still used as
Buy
an
it.
excuse. Supply
Either
chain
way,
excuse.
buy it now, the prices are going up.
Yeah.
I think Ron has a question.
Ron Drew, thank you, Sheila.
Yeah, I got an observation. I can't drive yet, but my wife does. She takes me all over the place. And we took a ride down there, just to see if this doesn't still stink. And I didn't really smell anything down there. Has it got to the point where the citizens now are not bitching and moaning?
Mr. Clancy.
You're absolutely right, Ron. The phone calls have been, less frequent as far as the odor goes, so.
Good.
From my office and from, I believe the First Select Woman's office as well, so.
Super.
But you're right, yeah.
Diplomatically stated, by the way.
Okay. Very well, I think that covers the digester update. Let's go to an update on the current projects. I think that'd probably be a combination of, John, what do you have?
Sure, I
And then we'll compare notes with
yes, once
Joe.
again, I'll share this with you from, the information that I've received. So, first is, the Fairfield Beach Pump Station and Force Main Design. So there was a meeting was held with, Connecticut DEP, Engineering, and Christine to discuss the project, since Fairfield Beach Pump Station is a, FEMA flood zone and a coastal, yeah.
Yes, Christine.
Oh, Christine.
Hey, guys.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
I talked you up, Christine. We're just talking about the Fairfield Beach Pump Station. We're doing, the update on current projects, Christine, so we're just discussing the Fairfield Beach Pump Station. I read halfway through it, but if you'd like to elaborate, please do.
Well, there hasn't been very much progress on it. We did have an RFP prepared. We have to select the designers for that project through a it's called RFQ. They have to be picked based on qualifications in order for us to qualify for future grants, for the Clean Water Fund grants and things like that. So we have to be very careful about how we put out that RFQ. So we met with the Connecticut Deep 2 weeks ago with engineering and myself to understand what parameters we would have to put into that RFQ to make sure that we meet the FEMA requirements for the building and the structure. Since it's in a VE flood zone, which is like one of the higher ranking ones in that area. And they did mention that the building would probably have to be elevated, which we were kind of aware of. So it was just, we had a preliminary meeting with them to discuss what we'd have to put into the RFQ so that we'd be able to release that and put that out on the street in order to select a designer. So we're just working with them right now to make sure we have that document, to make sure we have all the requirements in there before we send it off to purchasing to put it out on the street.
Christine, thank you. I'm just processing that. The Fairfield Beach Residents Association is a well-organized, vocal constituent that is likely to have some thoughts on that particular structure. Have you heard from them?
Not yet.
So, for instance, going higher may impede somebody's view across the channel, for instance. I could see that. Just put that on your radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Christine. Originally, when this was presented to us, they weren't going to do much with the structure. They were going to change all the valves and update all the equipment. But when I asked the question, and this goes back a couple of years pre-you, they talked about not changing the structure. And I asked the question, isn't FEMA, because of all the other issues we have in town with structures, isn't FEMA going to have a problem? And I was told because it's not a structure that has people. It's not a manned structure like Penfield Pavilion. It doesn't have people that are going to be using it. We didn't have to, back then I was told we didn't have to address the building. Has that changed, do you know, or is that simply a new FEMA deep?
I mean, I don't know. I can't speak on what previous requirements were. I know that in the conversation that we had with Deep about 2 weeks ago, it was stated in order for us to get grant money that we would probably have to meet certain requirements. For the structure itself we don't meet the flood mitigation issues in that area because it is in a VE zone. That was my understanding, was that we'd have to do some flood mitigation measures or some flood proofing. We wouldn't necessarily have to touch the structure. There would be certain things we do, but it might mean that we wouldn't get any money for it. Like we wouldn't get any grant funding.
Okay. So, yeah, we just need to be careful to balance whatever small grant we may get versus how much we'd invest in building that thing up and incurring some wrath possibly.
Agreed, yeah.
You also want to make sure that you're protecting the brand new infrastructure we're putting within the insurance.
See, when it was explained to me, it's a hole in the ground.
Right.
And it's a pump. And any water getting in there gets pumped.
There's different types of pumps though, and then the controls and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
If they're submersible, then you don't have to worry as much. But I mean, a lot of times,
I
you gotta
would assume-
protect the motor from water,
Right.
and then all the controls.
Okay, well, I would assume that's what our design would address.
Right. I mean, you're correct that an occupiable
Right.
space would not need, like, heat,
I'm
full
picking up-
HVAC, but it would need exhaust fans, just again, to protect the
Right,
equipment.
I'm
Like
just
you're-
picking up on Mark's point. I don't think we want to build anything.
I've enough to be dangerous here in that I actually went in that pump station and I know, remember it was my idea to rent out the unit above? Waterfront view. It really didn't smell very bad inside. But it's unlike the other pump stations that are close to the ground. I'm a big thinker, yeah.
You don't need a
Out of the
bathroom.
box, yeah. It does go up enough that, conceptually, you could move the equipment further up the building.
Right.
Which you couldn't do at some of the other pump stations. I don't know if that is high enough, but, Christine will know way before we do. Christine, can I, ask you a question about the digester?
Yes.
What's the decision-making process around lining that or not lining that?
We have it right now that they are going to, if we're gonna reline it, we have it right now that we're going to either remove the loose liner, any obviously loose liner, or possibly use high pressure water jetting to remove, all of the liner. Tenemic is the manufacturer who made the tar-like substance that, that liner that's in there that was put on over 20 years ago. And we have a Tenemic rep on board who is going to come out and help us evaluate the existing liner that's there once we get access inside the liner, which will hopefully be in the next week or so. And we were going to basically see what their recommendation was, but Wright Pierce is the designer of record, and they said that it's not common practice now to line digesters. So you line other structures, but not digesters. So they've done other digesters in recent years in other towns, and they said that it's not typical to do that. So they weren't recommending that we put the liner back on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Christine, through you, Mr. Chair. Christine, can you also, when you have Wright Pierce in the room, I believe their design of the new plant incorporates the existing digester.
Yes.
Can you ask them what the trade-off is if we line it versus not line it, if we're looking to try to get another 40 years out of that particular structure?
Okay.
Please. Thank you.
Yeah, and or if there's any technology that should be incorporated into that digester as we look to upgrade the plant.
Well, that'd be in the plant design.
Yeah, I personally haven't looked into the details of the upgrade plan to understand what we were doing in that digester, if the mechanical was recommended to stay the same, or if we were going to change the way that the digester processes, I can't speak on that just yet.
Yeah, just not sure when it will be empty again, so it might be an opportune time.
10 years will be in.
Yeah.
We're gonna clean it.
Okay. What's next on our list, Mr. Clancy?
Carriage Drive.
Oh,
So
nice.
the gift that keeps giving. Engineering is still working on the contract document. So. Yep, exactly. And that's about. They should be providing review comments soon. So I haven't heard anything from any residents on Carriage Drive, surprisingly. So, but that's all I have on that, everyone. And then next is the, do you want me to keep
Who
going?
within engineering is point on that?
I'm gonna, you know what, that's a good question.
Maybe we ask them to come next month and.
I think that'd be a great idea, see exactly where we are. I'm just surprised I haven't heard from any of the residents.
Christine, you're not plugged in on Carriage Drive by any chance, are you?
A little bit. I was given the contract documents. I saw them earlier on, but I was given them by engineering probably around the holidays, the Christmas time, and I sent back some comments at the beginning of January, but I haven't heard anything since then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who have you sent them to at engineering? Is it that,
Bill.
did someone just,
No, Bill.
oh,
I don't remember
Yeah.
which one of theirs might have been copied on it, but it was,
Yeah.
I was, Bill.
I'm sure it's Bill, yeah.
it would be good to get those wrapped up for the, new construction season.
Spring season, spring training.
I'm sure the residents are, wait.
I'm gonna take that on myself to reach out to Bill early on Carriage Drive and ask him if he can, if Bill or Christine can speak to that in March, the March meeting. Okay, what's next?
East Trunk Wetlands?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and this is the last one. Presented and approved by BOS, on 2/6, right, Christine, for 100% bond of $6.25 million for construction and construction inspection services, pending approval, by the Board of Finance.
Yeah. Joe, I can't speak on this. Joe can probably speak on this more intelligently than I can.
Well done, Christine.
Okay, so, yes, the total project was 6.25. We have a grant, so the full bond would be about 5.5. We have a grant for 750, which is running. As John indicated, Board of Selectmen have, approved it unanimously at the 2/6 meeting. It did not get past the Board of Finance. It got caught up because the Board of Finance wants to see a 10-year plan of all our spending, how we're going to use our fund. They want the full explanation before they vote on any of our projects. That was mentioned at their February, meeting, which I attended. So that one and the next one John's gonna talk about, which is the Wetlands Metro, are past the Board of Selectmen, but hung up, waiting for us to present our 10-year plan, basically, to the Board of Finance. And then it has to still go on to the RTM, both of them, once we get past.
What are your thoughts on the Board of Finance on what their position's gonna be with our 10-year plan?
Their position is going to be, we have to present it first. They've accepted, at least I've been dealing with their chairperson, and they've accepted our numbers, she has accepted, the next thing I have to ask her to do is put it on her agenda, but she has accepted the numbers. What she and I both have seen, as has Jared, is that in 2029, based on the projects listed on our capital waterfall, we basically don't have any more funds. And they want to know from our commission what we intend to do as far as raising additional funds. And I think I sent everybody basically 4 thoughts. Grants, critical, getting grants. 2, surcharges on the ratepayers. 3, surcharges on the commercial properties. And 4, the town supporting, town funds supporting us. Both the Board of Finance and the town, not the Board of Selectmen, but the town have indicated that they understand that the town maybe have to contribute to us. But they wanted to hear from us what our plan was, how we wanted to, request it. So,
What are the thoughts
we're sort of caught in a, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
But are we caught on all projects are basically halted now until the Board of Finance?
That's what the Board of Finance said at their
we
2/6
become
meeting,
a-
that's correct.
Yeah.
They want to see 10 years and how we're funding it before they approve one of them.
Okay, I just see this could be like a 6-month process dealing with the Board of Finance, and then all of a sudden, everything that we're trying to finally do.
Yeah, I don't see that, but
Okay.
I think they're going in with their eyes open, but they got sticker shock right now based on
Yeah.
the remarks that Bateson, so this is, they weren't prepared for this, but they know they have to man up
Yeah.
here.
In your numbers, you have the, plant upgrades and all the numbers.
That's the big
And that's
one.
basically the reason.
That's what throws us
That's the
over the
reason
top
why
in
we gotta
2029.
get, yeah, that's just the whole
Absolutely.
reason, but I would assume that everyone's gotta have their eyes open, is that, yeah, we could increase so much for commercial and residential, but the plant supports the town, not just the ratepayers, So I would assume that all town has to be behind us and keep moving forward on it, and not have all of our projects stop because of, the only reason why we're in this position is because we gotta do a plant upgrade.
Yeah.
If we didn't have the plant upgrade, they'd probably look at it and say, yeah, you're gonna pay for it all.
But that's.
Yeah, we're
That's
caught.
That's the monkey in the room.
Yeah, we're
That's-
caught.
That's the elephant in the room.
Uh-huh.
So we, at this commission, need to say, we're looking at I mean, my feeling is we're looking at grants, we're looking at bifurcating our billing to our ratepayers, taking both, splitting our, ratepayers out to residents, potentially and commercial, and possibly developing two different rates, possibly developing two different surcharges. I mean, I'm throwing out all the options here. We need to decide that as a commission. And then certainly, after we pull all those things, engineering said we could move out one or two of the pump stations to sort of ease up some of the numbers in the first 5 or 6 years. And then we look at the final, I assume we look at the final thing is request from the town, this is what we're short. I mean, that would be the way I would approach it. Do what we can do, figure out what we need to do, and then go to the town and say, this is the potential, we need, $1 million a year more from the town. And I made that number up, that's an official number, just a number.
Yeah, so Joe and I met with Dave Kay, the tax collector, and who has a good grasp of the Aquarian process and in terms of what we can do in terms of flexibility on different rate structures. And it was a positive meeting. I mean, it's not what we thought before. It'd be difficult to break out commercial accounts from residential or look at usage and so forth, and it doesn't. Dave seems to have a good handle on that. My personal bias, and I think we're all going to have to express how we feel because we're going to need to work up some proxies on what this might look at. And we've reached out to other towns, and in getting feedback from other towns, there's no kind of commonality. There's generally towns that have taken on large upgrades, pass on a surcharge of some amount of money per year. Some it's the same for residential versus commercial. The most complex system is New Canaan, which has like 6 different commercial rates based on type of business you have. We have about 700 commercial accounts. I would say the top 20 are the universities, the rest stops, the hotels, and so forth. And they use a lot of water, and we do a lot of things for those users. I think about the $6 million spent for Sacred Heart to build new dorms. They contributed $1 million, we put in $5 million. So, and they don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
So before asking those of us who do pay taxes in town to contribute for the upgrade, I think we really have to look at those other users. And I think Joe and I, well, I'm going to ask you kind of real time, we could work up some skeletons of what it might look like to get some discussion and some feedback to figure out how we're going to effectively plug these holes for the next 5 years and what the median rate may increase. We've always taken an average rate, which is like, around $450 or so.
Yeah, now it's 510. I mean, it was 450 when we first started.
But that includes the 700 commercial ratepayers too.
Mm-hmm.
So the typical homeowner pays maybe 400, right? And 400 compared to what they pay for water, for instance, is extremely affordable.
Yeah.
So we say, okay, what does 400 go to for the average ratepayer?
Yeah.
That's probably like 650, 700. What does the average go to for the large residential user? And then what does it look like on the commercial side? And we kind of do that in terms of rate structure, and then when we look at surcharges and what those might be. And I think the only way we have to do that and put it in front of you guys and say, no, it seems too high or too low, or let's look at that. But we have to do that soon because I think we're going to have project gridlock unless we do that. Yeah, I mean that's my pitch.
And what I'd like to do is, if we get consensus of some kind that we are looking at bifurcating residential, commercial, just looking at it, no commitment until we see all the numbers. Looking at what we could get in grants, looking at what projects we could push off. I'd like to go to the Board of Finance and say, we're doing all that.
Yeah.
And as we're doing that, here are all our projects that we're talking about. We could slide some of them out, and we'll look for grants, no guarantees.
Yep.
And then say, but we may need to look to the towns for a certain amount of money. I like to just tell them this is what we're doing, so this way we can hopefully get past the gridlock. I'd like to put us on the next agenda for the Board of Finance with the 10-year plan, which I think I've got the numbers all set to go.
Sure.
And then if they do have that on their agenda, have right behind that on their agenda, those two projects, so that we can get those projects going. I mean, winter's gonna be coming again pretty soon, and we're gonna be sitting here saying, we never started the projects and we're already into winter again. I mean, I need some kind of consensus to say, yeah, we're looking at all this and we're working on these plans, but we don't know yet. You know, that,
Joe, do you think you can get those two projects approved and subject to nothing else gets approved until we have new rates in place?
I mean, that would be my secondary position. My first position would be accept all our numbers, accept we're going to cover as much as we can. We may have to come to the town for some money. Don't know it yet until we work out all our numbers, but approve these two projects because they're shovel ready. We've got grants running on them, and it's going to take us till June now, it looks like, by the time we get past March, Board of Finance, April RTM, then the purchasing department putting the bids together. So that's June right there. We're almost into winter again for these two projects. I mean, that's what I want to present to them.
Yeah, and
Our
a couple
cliff
of,
is, what, 6, 7, 8 years out? I mean, we're
I'm
fine.
sorry?
Our cliff, our financial cliff,
Oh,
we're
yeah,
good until
that's
the treatment
2029.
plant. So, I mean,
2029, yeah.
let's not delay
Yeah.
2023 for 2029.
Right. And then maybe promise them, we won't come to you for
Yeah, we-
anything else
yeah.
until we have the final 10-year
Right,
nailed down.
right.
Christine, do you think that with the new units that are being built at the Metro Center, that are gonna tap right into where that, constriction is there any risk of surcharge or any engineering risk with those units coming into that pipe?
I honestly, I can't speak on that. I don't know. I mean, my understanding is that it's at, I don't think it's at capacity at this moment, but the more that we build, the more it becomes troublesome. But I honestly, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head.
Well, I would argue it differently. I would say if we don't put that in place and those 600 units come on board, or those 5 buildings come on board at Metro, we have to do a bypass to put those in place. You're putting more people behind that pipe for us to do a bypass on if we don't get those pipes in. The longer we wait getting those pipes in,
Right.
the more
Higher
users, more higher volume you're gonna have on those pipes. I would argue it or discuss it that way.
The cost for bypassing will double.
Yeah, you're gonna increase if you don't approve these projects, I've been thinking about it. If you don't approve these projects and they get those buildings on there,
Cost of bypass
Yeah.
doubling, yeah.
it's gonna increase the cost of
And
bypass.
2/3 of the town's sewage going through, and if things go horribly wrong when you start snaking bypass tubes around.
But even just the size of the pumps alone will.
We're always gonna have to do the bypass, so I'm not sure that's a good argument, that 2/3 come through. We have to put the bypass pipes, no matter
The more
when.
flow, though, the higher the risk is.
The more flow, the higher the risk. That's the argument, I think.
Ron's got a question or comment?
Yeah, I got a question.
Ron, anything?
Yeah, the one of the guiding principles I used to have when I was running Coca-Cola for the IT department was that any project is made up of time, quality, and dollars. And if you want to keep the quality, 100% best quality, then if you change the time, it's going to cost you more money. If you don't want that quality, it'll cost you less money. So, you know, it's, you gotta look at all three of those functions, and normally the best thing to do is have a project spec'd out so that the dollars are there within a tolerance, that's, if that's what you wanna call it. But most of the time, if you delay a project, it's gonna cost you more money. So when I saw that, plan that Joe put together, which I say to you, Joe, you did a nice job. I looked at it like 5 years from now, these projects that haven't started yet are gonna cost you a hell of a lot more money than what you did when you first put it together. So,
That's a good point, Ron.
so, you know, the bottom line is, I'm not sure what the finance committee, you know, I don't, I was at that meeting when, they signed me up on another tour of duty with the WPCA. And there was one individual that basically said that, you know, WPCA, you know, you're not under control. We need more, you know, focus on the money and, you know, what's it going to, more and more specs. And it was almost like, you know, come on, we're running our own show. We know what we're doing. But the bottom line is that I just don't see a 10-year plan. I think 10-year plans are a waste of time and money. That's my point. I mean, everybody has their own opinion, but that's mine. Anything past 5 years is gonna change.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm done.
Thank you, Ron.
I agree.
Appreciate your
I
insight.
get it though, but if you're a member of the Board of Finance, you know, if you got that hat on, you wanna know what else is coming down the road. So
Yeah, I understand both sides.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole third dimension of the stuff that's gonna break that we don't even, yeah.
The unknown.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, no.
You have to change.
Okay, what do we have next?
I just status update on sewer bypasses. I think you guys basically touched base on, that, the Metro Center. Other than that, we have none, so.
But hang on, before you do that, so Joe, you're all set going to the Board of Finance and talking about.
Well, if I can say, yeah, basically have some
Yes.
kind of consensus that we're going to split our ratepayers, commercial and non-commercial, or resident and non-resident, however. We're discussing it. I don't wanna commit.
Just,
I'm gonna try to stay as,
and if we're all discussing it, and if we're looking out into other towns, I just find it interesting, that the project that just came in here, and the town, like, where was built, it's like you got your commercial sector, you got downtown. You got your kind of, then it slowly works up to Greenfield, little bigger lots. And now we designed everything 60 years ago, 70 years ago. Everything was built for commercial downtown. It was built and it'll hold it. It'll make it work.
Right.
But now we're taking, and things change, and I agree, things change, but now we're taking all this residential and we're putting this residential where maybe it's not downtown, but it's kind of on the, you know, the fringes here. We're putting 40 units on a lot that was only supposed to be 3. You know, I have a little issue with taking it and putting it on the commercial, when putting more on the commercial, when I see that development is, yes, it's residential, yes, they're 40 units, but they have a lot more they're putting more tax on the system that was ever meant to be.
Well, my counter argument is just that the bulk of our financial cliff is the treatment plant. And that's because everybody who's been on that system for the past 60 years has not been paying what they should have. Because if they had, then we would have had 20 or 30 million in reserve, which would have covered the renewal, the asset renewal. The treatment plant is the problem. It's not the collection system.
Yeah,
So the people who actually have been using the system, which is largely the commercial, they just haven't been paying their fair share. And that's the reason why we need to either go to the town or increase rates or a combination. But, I mean, and it's not here alone. I mean, this is a nationwide issue. People have not been paying rates with respect to what the infrastructure costs life cycle.
and looking at that too, I see the point there is that commercial does have taxed the system a lot more. They got a lot more greases, they've got a lot more different waste. so they do tax the system more. It's just, I just kind of conceptually, I just have, just to kind of conceptual is that once we start splitting it, then I know it.
We have to look at, we have to look at the numbers, because I think when we look at the numbers, and we, you know, we had Rob Cinto on the board before, and we asked him once, you know, if we went from X to Y in terms of rates and charge for the commercial building, what would as a commercial building owner, like, wait, that's, they didn't even look at that,
It's a rounding error,
you know?
Yes, but for him and for a lot of the people there, it doesn't, but for the little mom and pops, it does. Just as a point, you know, it's for the little mom and pops that own their store, they've owned it for a while, you know, it's like.
Yeah, so if they don't use a lot of water, then,
Right, exactly.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
we're not gonna put we may decide to, but at this point, I'm not proposing, we put a flat rate of, you know, $2,000 on every commercial user, and the residential user is $300.
Understood.
We're not saying that. It's still gonna be a rate based on usage.
Yes.
The rate may be different. You know, we may say, okay, commercial, you're gonna pay $8 per CCF, and residential will pay $3 per CCF. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a lot of levers
Yeah.
that we can pull to make it work.
And it's just, I see it like usually the system was designed, and this doesn't really go into the, I guess, the sewer plant, but it really goes into the pipes in the system, is that once you get out of the town, or once you get out of the commercial area, pipe sizes get smaller. It's all residential. It's not that much flow. Now we're taking all that and putting these units in for a typical one, you know, multifamily individual lots where you get maybe 3 units here on that. Now we're putting 40.
Right.
So the whole
Those-
collection system
those
is
are-
different. We will
those are
be having
commercial
issues.
users.
No, the apartment that just came in, is it?
Sure it is.
That's a commercial user?
Yeah.
No, that would be residential. To me, anyway,
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
No, and maybe
He's
that's.
gonna build
that's a
a forty
residential.
unit condo, complex, and I consider that residential.
Yeah, that's what I would think too, but maybe
Well,
that's what
A
we're
Stop and
looking
Shop,
at.
I consider commercial.
Yeah.
You know, we'd have to come up with a definition, but
It's still gonna be usage-based though, but I mean,
It's-
obviously,
yeah.
they'll be
Right,
paying a
it's the rate.
residential rate as
Right.
opposed to a
It's just-
commercial rate.
I just see, we're gonna have an issue with our pipe sticks, because we're putting.
Well, that's why we do the capacity analysis before approving a single project.
Yeah,
And that's why we have that 80% threshold to
I know,
protect us.
and it's just, yeah,
Your point is well taken though, and
I understand that,
and
it's
I-
eventually,
I liked, Joe had a question earlier about, like, I mean, we're not adequately protecting ourselves from, we approve a project, nothing happens 6 months, a year down the line,
Right.
and we forget whether or not, and I think that process
Well-
needs to include, we have a hydraulic model, I understand, I think Ray Pierce owns it or whatever, but I think we should start incorporating hydraulic modeling into
This one
the-
tonight, we did not have the right wording on this. Typically, we would have said to hear and act upon a proposal for this many units, and they would be paying us this amount of money based on the I&I, and this would be available for 2 years. At the end of 2
Right.
years, if they haven't started, that would all be in.
Redo that process, right?
But this, I mean, we're sitting in a place now which is extremely bad for this commission. We're, no offense to you, John, but we're getting no support at this point. So, and I actually went on record, I was telling Mark, I went on record at the Board of Selectmen to say, I'm a private citizen, you know, I'm watching all this, and there is nobody advocating for the WPCA projects. You know, fire was there, chief, the police were there, education was there, all advocating for their capital projects.
Right.
And we had nobody, so
We have
I'm on
Christine now.
record with that.
That's nice.
Christine she actually left the meeting when I got up there. She was embarrassed for me, and she left.
I was on
She
WebEx.
knew I was going to go crazy.
Okay, so Joe and I are gonna work up some skeletons. I'm, the multifamily, I don't know why that we can't put that into the commercial. I mean, we'll talk
You're
about
gonna,
that.
how many, I'm gonna make it a really easy question for you. How many, water meters will be in that 40-unit thing he's doing? How many water meters? Let me help you, 40.
Probably.
Yeah, so that's residential. Each one of
But
those
why
is
do
gonna
they
be,
need a bit?
if you have 1 meter then it could be commercial. Because you're gonna have 40 different people paying our bill.
Commercial, comma, multifamily.
But you can't, how are we going to determine
When
when,
Canaan goes, they've gone out and they've looked at every commercial building and they've categorized it into 6 different buckets. Why can't we say that multifamily is part of commercial? I mean, I'm in commercial real estate,
so-
multifamily is commercial real
so,
estate.
so if I live in one of those 40 units and I have my own individual, I'm gonna charge them a commercial rate for that individual person, one of 40 families in that building, I'm gonna charge them a commercial rate.
Something we look at.
Okay, we can look at it.
If you look at it, I think you might have to look at it legally. If it's a affordable under 830G, can you do it? Because it's,
No.
it does not matter.
Well, it depends what the structure is.
But-
It's gotta be.
but
if
it's
it's
One
I mean-
bedroom, it's gonna be the
But I
minimum
mean, if
rate
it's like
anyway.
like a hut or whatnot,
That's
if
INR,
there's
that's
certain parameters, if
No,
it's
but I'm
hut.
saying usage-wise, so it's gonna be the minimum rate.
You guys can be confident that Joe and I will knock heads on this, but we will come back with something.
We're not gonna knock heads on it.
And before one of the septic users starts paying, who also pays real estate taxes in town, starts paying for the sewer system, the large commercial users will pay what's the fair share.
And also,
And I think to me, the kind of rule of thumb is, as sewer use is probably something slightly less than your cable bill.
I would also wanna see, the rate comparison. I think we've talked about this in the past, but like,
Yeah, we're-
understanding what residents pay here versus
We're
everywhere
about
else in
30%
Fairfield County.
below
Yeah.
the
I mean,
neighboring towns.
There are the towns, and what, I don't have average rates for the towns, but those are their rates. Their rates are higher than our rates in many, many, many of the cases.
Right.
Including surcharges, so.
Right.
Any comments, feedback before we?
One more is if it gets too complicated, there are consulting firms that literally do rate studies. so
I
the-
tried to get,
I know a bunch of
I'm
them.
trying to get a session with Woodard to
Okay.
walk us through that, and it may be easier for us to have what some other towns have done, they've just outsourced that and said,
I can bring in there's a firm, Raftellus, that, I mean, they do financial consulting for municipalities nationally.
well, we have Joe who does it for free.
Well, they might come in,
They might have
they might come in and talk. I don't, I mean,
Yeah,
I
they
don't know how
might-
much they'll,
They have a
I don't know how far they'll
They
get
have a
before.
D&O policy. All right.
So let me ask Christine, are there any other projects, Christine, that you need to bring to the attention? We talked about the trunk line, metro and wetlands replacement. We've talked about Fairfield Pump Station. Is there anything else you need to bring to this commission?
No, the
To
only
our
other,
attention about something?
not at the moment. The only other item was the carriage drive, which we addressed, and,
Okay.
I'm currently working on the construction of the digester repairs. So
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we're not missing anything that you need.
no,
Christine, your clock is fast.
Hmm?
Your clock is fast
sorry.
behind you. I'm like, no, it's 9:15 already, how'd that happen?
It's right twice.
Whole hour off.
Okay. Let me go to the agenda. No bypasses. Well, that gives us .7. That's adjourned. Is there a motion?
Oh, there is indeed.
Tom, second from Chris. All in favor? Looks to be unanimous. Christine, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Christine.